The brain works as a symphony, as a structure where harmony has been shaped by evolution.
Let's talk now to Professor Álvaro Machado Dias, here at the Federal University of São Paulo. He is director of the Advanced Center for Decision Making. How can we apply the presence of neuroeconomics in our day-by-day life?
Hi. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Neuroeconomics is basically a field of studies that have to do with individual decision making, and it has two main applications. The first one relates to the fact that by learning how the brain works in decision making, we can understand decision biases, and we can understand what makes a good decision from an individual perspective. So in the end, we can say that neuroeconomics works as a guideline for better decisions. On the other side, there's something that is not yet constituted, which is the field of clinical decision making. And that one will have to do with the understanding of all the deficits in decision making that comes from a brain process that for some reason have become abnormal. And that's also a good application, a practical application that we aim to have in the future.
Can we talk about a description of neuroeconomics?
Yeah, neuroeconomics it's basically a field that derived from behavior economics, and which has to do with decisions, individual decisions. And in our specific field, we're mostly interested in what's happening in the brain, or as we put it, the neurocorrelates of the individual decision making, especially the decisions that departure from rationality. So in practice, neuroeconomics is all about what makes individuals specific and heuristic in their decision making.
What's the influence of parts of our brain and our body in our decision?
The brain works as a symphony, as a structure where harmony has been shaped by evolution. Yet, the different parts of the brain have specific functionalities. In that sense, we have some parts of the brain that are deeply involved in decision making because they have to do with affective processing. Affective processing on itself can be divided into salience and valence for the sake of decision making. And that means, how do we feel that a decision or something is more positive or more negative, and how something has more impact or less impact. Other parts of the brain that are deeply involved in decision making have to do with the construction of mental scenarios. Like when we think of something as decision making, we're probably thinking of something that will or not happen in the future. And for that, we need to actually create an abstraction, a representation of possible scenarios. And especially the prefrontal cortex is deeply involved in the creation of those scenarios and has a tremendous role in decision making.
Álvaro, what's the relation between intuition and decisions?
Well, that's a good one. There is a field of behavior economics and neuroeconomics that deals with intuition in decision making. And basically, it relates to the use of what has been called the somatic markers to guide decision making. What is that? You can actually have two ways to do a decision. In one way, you have internal reasons which can be converted into words or mental images. In another way, you don't have those images, but you do have some feelings, some internal directions. Those feelings are usually called somatic markers. So they can be actually somatic in the sense that you can feel a tension or something like that, or they can be as if somatic, as Antonio Damasio and Bechara say. Basically, intuition in decision-making has grown as a very popular field because there are several instances where using those somatic markers instead of just relying on the rationality of words and mental images perform better in tests and are suggestive of better performance in real life. Not for all scenarios, not for all decisions, but for some, and that's important.
And are women more intuitive than men?
Wow. Yes. In general, I would say that if we standardize a test for intuition in decision making, which is not exactly the same as general intuition, probably women would score higher. Why is that? Basically, because if we do a test on the presence of affective behavior or the feelings from expectations, prospects, and so on and so forth, we will also find women scoring higher. So since everything is related on the neurobiological structure of intuitive decision making, it's tempted to say that women will be more intuitive in that regard, which doesn't mean deciding better or worse. It just means that the decision style goes a little bit more in this direction. Cannot say exactly how much in that direction because such longitudinal study is waiting to be done.
How can we make good decisions? What can we learn to make good decisions in our lives, at work?
Well, that's a question that, in my opinion, needs to be divided in at least three short subjects. The first one is you have to be aligned with what you're deciding about. And that means in practice, most of the time people are not exactly sure of what they want. So the first thing is to be clear about what you want, because when you know that, you can more effectively decide among options to reach it. So first thing is less about how to do the process of decision making work, but on deciding things that have real impact, a positive impact in your life. The second thing has to do with investing time and energy in decision making. Since the 50s, we know that one of the main sources of deviant decision making has to do with the perception of the costs of opportunity, especially the energetic costs of opportunity of making a good decision. That is, of thinking hard, of spending time and spending mental resources, sometimes feeling very anxious about what you're going to decide. So the main advice is invest your energy in decision making. That's way important. And the last thing that I think that as a short take home we could consider here has to do with the perception of the feelings of your phenomenology in the moment that you're deciding. For instance, in a certain moment that you're tense, you're much less able to map the somatic markers in yourself and actually understand what is the direction that you would prefer in another scenario where you are more relaxed. In a scenario where you're very excited, your perception of risk tends to be diminished. In a scenario where you're more depressive, you tend to be unable to understand what's good about one option in regard to the others, and so on and so forth. So having clarity about how you're feeling in a certain moment and trying to discount that feeling is something that works quite well to enhance decision-making quality.
I've heard about people who use drugs to get a better performance at work. I'd like your opinion about it.
Oh, it's drugs. Different drugs obviously have different consequences on decision making. For instance, Ritalin, which is obviously used for ADD, is usually a cause of more focus, which can be positive to decision making in certain scenarios and less positive in others. For instance, suppose that you have a difficulty to focus and you start taking Ritalin. That is, you do have a condition that it's worth to be taking that drug. You will probably have a better capability to sustain your thoughts and the mental representations of possible scenarios, and then make better decisions. On the other hand, a person that has no ADD and starts taking Ritalin will probably feel too excited, and by that means will lose the ability to focus and have a good decision. So all depends on the contest. Of course, we also have the drugs of abuse, and for instance, crack cocaine is known to enhance dramatically impulsive decision making, and tends to make the somatic markers much less efficient. We also have a bunch of effects of psychiatric drugs in decision making, which vary according to the actual disease or dysfunction that's carried by the user, and in some sense it tends to actually enhance decision making, but of course it also can sort of hamper the ability to think clearly, which is something that must be taken into consideration by people.
Álvaro, thank you so much for joining us.
It has been a pleasure.
Thank you. Luciane Miranda, Tudo Cascop TV.